FNZ Sports Show. Hang the regular season banner, guys. You're not the same, bruh. It's not.
I do not want the refs to be a part of my football game. This Ohio State team is different.
Welcome to the FNZ Sports Show, hosted by your guys, Cleveland, Mike, and Terry, man. Terry, you know, it's been a while since we have talked, since Ohio State has won the national championship. How do you feel, you know, being a national champion fan?
Hey, we did a show since then, dude.
Yeah.
we did one. But hey, I'm over it. Honestly, bro. I'm ready to move on to 2025. I think I told you that last time. That's my guy, Mark, right there. You just put the comment up, man. That's my guy, Mark. What's up with you, Mark? Thanks for watching, bro.
Appreciate you, Mark. We appreciate you. Make sure that you like and subscribe to the show, man. We appreciate if you are watching on Twitter, man. Hit that like button and that retweet button. We really appreciate you. And also go ahead, put some comments in the chat, and we will get to those as we can, man. We got a pretty busy show. There's been a lot going around. The biggest thing out right now, Terry, that we have is the Big Ten and the SEC just throwing their weight around. Basically, what you get is either a 14 or 16 team playoff model. You get 4 auto bids from the Big Ten and the SEC each. So that takes up 8 spots. You're guaranteeing, I believe, the ACC and the Big 12 2 spots each. So now you're at 14, and then it leaves a G5 school, leaves you at 15. Then you got Notre Dame. That leaves you at like 16 right there if you're doing the 16 playoffs. So it all depends. But Notre Dame, I think that right now they just proven they don't need to join a conference. They can continue to move exactly how they've been moving with the cupcake schedules, doing what they want, and they actually are going to make more money on the back end, making the CFP than anybody else in college football because they don't have to share it.
Yeah, the stuff with Notre Dame, dude, is just like, I don't know. They shouldn't have a seat at the table like that. You know what I mean? They kind of have like, they kind of are their own conference in a way, and it's kind of stupid. But as far as like the Big Ten and the SEC throwing their weight around, though, bro, I love that. Hey, I hope they keep doing it because the Big Ten and the SEC are the best conferences in college football. Like, there's no conference in college football when you get outside of the top 2 teams that can even compete with them at all. And honestly, I don't know if there's another conference out there that the top 2 teams can compete with the Big Ten and the SEC's top 2. So, I mean, when you got the power, you might as well use it, right?
I mean, and to be honest, you know, a lot of people were wondering, you know, what are these other conferences going to do? You know, we heard that they had kind of built their little alliance and everything. And what you just seen is there's nothing that they can do, right? You know, the Big Ten and the SEC ranking supreme. And now you actually have a tier of college football. And the SEC cannot just say, hey, we are number 1 and we are king of the crop just alone. They cannot say that anymore. I know SEC fans do not like to hear that, but it's the truth. And now you have the Big Ten and the SEC in tier 1. I would say you could put, is it crazy to say, I would say that maybe the ACC and the Big 12 are in the same tier. And to be honest, with this new model, you can kind of say that because both of those conferences are only guaranteed 2 teams.
Oh, you mean they're in the same tier as each other? I thought you meant as the Big Ten, but yeah, I agree.
No. They're in the same tier with each other. So I would say I put them with this new model, they would be at tier 2, right? Yeah. Now, I would say in the current structure, they would be at tier 2 by themselves, and then the Big 12 would probably be at tier 3 in the current structure. But we're talking about moving forward. They are the Big 12.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, as much as people hate it, I think that you're basically going to get the same playoff that you would have got anyway. But I think that it gives a little bit of protection to those teams in the Big Ten that, or the SEC for that matter, that do end up playing a really tough schedule. Like if you play a really tough schedule where you have a big time out of conference game, but you still finished as one of the top 4 teams in the Big Ten or the SEC, then you're going to get in. And I think it should be that way because honestly, if it's not that way, then it kind of deters the Big Ten and the SEC from playing out of conference games against each other. I mean, with them being the best 2 conferences, like we have Texas game 1, right? Like the format's going to be 12 teams next year. That game theoretically could end up getting Ohio State knocked out of the playoffs. Now, that game wouldn't have any impact on whether they make the playoffs or not in the new format. But, I mean.
Facts. We appreciate you, Steve. We see you checking us out on the X app, man. So if you're watching, make sure you go ahead, drop some comments in there. We appreciate you. Hit that like and subscribe button. But going forward, there's a lot of coaching carousel that's been going on.
This is what we haven't talked about.
But one thing that I do want to say is at the end of the season, you will see this coach fired. They don't agree to terms. They're moved around. We're talking head coaches. Yeah. That is not what we're seeing in college football right now. Head coaches are starting to be retained for the most part. And now you're starting to see DCs, offensive coordinators, position coaches starting to move around, either going to the NFL or, hey, they might make a lateral decision to just go where the hell they choose, right? One that I just saw before we got on here was Clinton Portis, former NFL running back, is now going to be the run game coordinator and running backs coach at Delaware State with Deshaun Jackson, who we talked about, I believe the last time we had a show, who, hey, we don't know what he's going to be like. Is he going to put a staff together?
It makes me want to watch him. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, now we're seeing one of the things that we said, Terry, he has to put a staff together, and he's starting to do it. So I think that that's a great hire. Now, here's the thing. Can those guys coach? Can those guys develop? Well, that will be yet determined, but I like what I'm seeing so far. And I'm wishing them nothing but the best and all this.
Oh, for sure. And I'm a big fan of the former like big time player as a head coach, or I mean as a coach. Excuse me. I think that if they can get the aspect of the game of like teaching the game down to these kids, I think that someone who was a really big time player like that has kind of a little more that they can offer. You know what I mean? Like you were a superstar. You have that. Right. You can teach that mentality to these players. So I've always liked it, and hopefully some of these guys, as the teams are coaches are starting to like kind of build their staff like that with people they know and that they kind of, I guess, played in the league at the same time with and stuff. Hopefully we'll start seeing some of those guys work their way up to like P5 jobs. That'd be sweet.
Yeah, it would, man. And you're also seeing, like I was speaking earlier, a lot of removes. Jim Knowles dips out of Ohio State after winning the national championship, goes to Penn State. Terry, how did you feel about this?
Man, I don't really care for Jim Knowles, Mike. I've always been that way, bro. Like people, whatever. The playoff defense that we had was insane, and that was like the best I've seen Ohio State's defense play in a long time. So I got to give him credit for that because obviously he was the DC, he was calling it. But before that, dude, I could have cared less if Jim Knowles left at any point within the last 3 years. And I know that he came in and he made our defense better right away. But I also think that like any coach that just knew how to make a sound defense would have made our defense better. Our defense was not sound. They didn't know how to stop certain plays. You know what I mean? So any coach really that had the ability to understand how a defense works overall, at every single level would have made our defense better. So I don't know, man. Good for Penn State, good for Jim Knowles, I guess. But like it doesn't move me. I don't know. I think our defense is going to be really good still. It'll probably be a little bit different. It probably won't be as good statistically, but like, I mean, we had superstars all over the field that were all seniors, not even juniors. Like, and the juniors, like the guys that were not seniors that we had on our team were Caleb Downs. Like, I mean, Caleb Downs is literally like the level of a senior already at his football progression. So I don't know. I think we got a lot of young stars on this defense, and I'm super excited about who we brought in to coach the defense.
Yeah.
I know you'll get to that. So
yeah, we'll get into all of that later. But I see Steve talking about the Larry and Jim Knowles beef was real. And here's the thing is, Terry, I know you have seen me saying in the group chats that I never really believed in this Larry versus Jim Knowles beef and things like that, or that Larry was the problem. And here's the reason why. Let's talk about who Larry Johnson is. Larry Johnson is a very godly man, Christian-oriented man. We hear that he does not curse. Just thinking about who Larry is, doesn't seem like he's going to have beef with anybody. I feel like he's the type of person, hey, man, let's have a talk. Let's pray it out together. I don't see those guys having a real beef. And anytime I said this, I always got pushback on it. And here's the thing, man. Larry is highly intelligent. I know a lot of people have been hating on Larry and, probably not too high on Larry either. But here's my thing on Larry. He's highly intelligent. A lot of people can say, oh, he's not getting with the times. And maybe he's having to learn how to adjust recruiting-wise in the NIL era. Bless you.
Excuse me, man.
You're good. Maybe he's having to learn how to adjust recruiting in the NIL era or whatever. But coaching-wise, I think Larry Johnson has shown us that he can coach through multiple generations. He's already shown us that.
So, Mike, what I think, dude, with this Larry Johnson and Jim Knowles thing, bro, I think that it was real, but I don't think it's like what a lot of people made it out to be. The only thing I can say, and again, we talked about Jim Knowles a minute ago about whether we thought he was a big loss or not. To me, when we got to the college football playoffs, it looked like Jim Knowles got out of the way with the defensive line, and they were finally allowed to just go after and get after the quarterback and actually go make plays. And it sucks that we saw it that late, because I feel like those guys are very talented and could have been kind of wreaking havoc on offenses for the last few years. But I don't know, man. I think that there was something to it, like the Larry Johnson and Jim Knowles thing. I don't think it was just like, oh, well, Jim Knowles wants to run odd front and Larry only wants to run 4 down. Because the problem is that we recruited for 4 down all the way up before Jim Knowles came here, right? So, like, if we're going to not do that when we got 2 5-star defensive ends who are staying for their junior and senior year, whatever, like, you know what I mean? Like that, in that situation, it didn't make sense to switch. The issue I had, and I talked about it a lot, was just that it didn't feel like those defensive linemen were even allowed to go out and try to get after the quarterback. It was like you're bull rushing the outside shoulder, and that's really all that your job is. And I think that that's something that probably hurt the recruiting at Ohio State too. I know that's kind of off subject, but when players see that and they see these guys that are super talented and all they get to do is bull rush, like, I don't want to do that shit. I don't blame them. You know what I mean?
Because their first assignment was contained, and Jim Knowles' whole defense was to allow the linebackers and the safeties to make plays. So that didn't. Here's the thing. If anybody want to be honest, shout out to Larry Johnson for being the guy who spoke up and said, hey, we cannot be a championship defense if we keep doing this. Shout out to Larry Johnson. Everybody who wanted to hate, look at seeing. I'm sorry, you gotta look at yourself in the mirror. You really do. Larry
Johnson's unit just won us a national championship.
You really do. You have to, and I'll say this as well, because I'll say here's where you can actually see where Larry doesn't have an issue. Larry don't want his guys dropping back on 3rd and 11 in the coverage. That's a Jim Knowles thing. And that's what we saw, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I think Larry Johnson needs to get a lot of his flowers. Just for calling it out. And I think shout out to Jim Knowles, what he's able to do. Go be at Penn State. I am very curious how that's going to work out, but we can get into breaking down Penn State and the future of that probably in a later show. What we'll do. This is more of a broad topics, and just hey, it's 2025 off season. Going into the season. And we're just probably, just giving our takes for the off season, man.
I mean, do you want to talk about that just a little bit, like the Jim Knowles effect on Penn State?
Go ahead.
I mean, like, I guess if we got any Penn State fans that are watching, I think what they should probably expect is they should probably expect Jim Knowles to be getting after it. They're going to be blitzing. They're going to be blitzing like crazy. So their linebackers and their D linemen are probably going to eat. Their secondary better be ready to cover, because if they don't, they're going to give up some big plays. And I mean, I don't expect it to be like Ohio State's defense this year in year one, obviously, you know what I mean? Because it's just, that was a special blend of talent and coaching and years in the football and the scheme and all that stuff. So just a little bit on that. I mean, that's kind of what I would expect if I was a Penn State fan. I would expect to have like a hyper aggressive defense that's going to be trying to make plays and try to win the game, and they may make some mistakes and give up some big plays, but they should make some plays also.
I think that's going to be the issue of Jim Knowles when, because here's the thing is Penn State fans feel like they got Jim Knowles because they're ready to take the next level, right? And Penn State, I don't feel like has ever had any issues on their defense. Now, last year, they go up against better talent. You see, to be honest, I feel like their secondary really could not hold up well.
Yeah,
and
Oregon really cooked them.
And I'm sorry, but in a Jim Knowles defense, your secondary, like if we're talking about Jim Knowles being able to run his defense, like we saw in what was that 2022, Jim Knowles defense, your secondary gonna be put on island sometimes. You're gonna have your safety covering and man-to-man coverage. Like, it's just in the big games when you're going up against Ohio State, you're going up against Oregon, you're going up against teams who have guys on the outside. How is that going to look? Now, I think that Penn State is probably going to continue being status quo for Penn State. It's how I feel with the Jim Knowles.
Yeah, and I mean, that's like what I explained is literally like exactly what Penn State's defense is every single year. Like, they're aggressive, they get after it, their linebackers and their D-line usually eats on pass rushing, and their secondary gets put on islands, and if they make mistakes, they give up big plays. Like, that's literally what their defense is. So, and then that's what kind of sucks for them. I mean, I get it, they got to maintain that defense, but like, I don't think that Jim Knowles is going to upgrade their defense too much from what it already was. And granted, they lost their defensive coordinator, so they had to hire somebody. And I mean, if you had to hire somebody, I mean, Jim Knowles that's a good hire for James Franklin. You know what I mean? But I don't think that's going to be enough to stop James Franklin from being James Franklin.
Exactly. But we have another former national championship Ohio State defensive coordinator going to another school. Chris Ash will be the defensive coordinator at Notre Dame. Someone asked me, hey, how is Chris Ash? Do you believe in him as a defensive coordinator? And I said, to be honestly, yeah. I think that your defense is going to be one of the best tackling defenses in the country. And, maybe.
Why? Hey, Mike, why, Mike? I got to know.
Why? Because they practice tackling. He practices tackling.
I knew that was your thing.
Yeah, he practices tackling. It's one of his emphasis. So I think Notre Dame is definitely going to be in good hands with Chris Ash, just the different things that he was able to learn. And, a lot of people want to look back at guys that were head coaches and what that looked like, and not look back at when they were at DC, when they had good talent, and how they were able to capitalize on that. So shout out to Chris Ash, man, in Notre Dame. I think that was a good one. And also, you
Mm.
still have the head coach who's a defensive guy, and they're going to be able to work well. So.
Yeah, I think that's going to work really well, bro. Honestly, I do. Notre Dame, I think when they got up against Ohio State, they saw a lot of holes in their defense where they hadn't really played an offense like Ohio State's, even all the way going through the playoffs. I mean, they played Indiana, was probably the best offense besides Ohio State in the playoffs, and then Penn State. But even Penn State, dude, when they played Notre Dame, we talked about it here on this show. They didn't have their backup quarterback who ended up having to go to the portal if he wanted to go somewhere else. And I mean,
great.
there was a lot of situations in that game where they could have used it. You know what I mean? Because that was kind of their guy who would run, who would come in and just spell Drew Aller for a second and just kind of pick up short yardage, stuff like that. So, but I think that when they got against Ohio State, they realized there was some holes in their defense, and Chris Ash will definitely shore that up. Really, for Marcus Freeman, his job is to make sure that the offense doesn't fall off of a cliff. Because at Notre Dame, it can. You know what I mean? Like at Ohio State, you don't expect it to fall off a cliff, but at Notre Dame, it could fall off a cliff, and it could be the reason why you can't make it either back to the playoffs or back to, kind of make a deep run in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I also think that Chris Ash is able to just relate with people a whole lot better. And, our guy, Jay Bucks, he brought up a really good point. Are y'all expecting those to be able to recruit? Maybe he's able to recruit a little bit better because he has a different cachet about him. He had the number one defense. So maybe that's able to help him and
he's from
build
Pennsylvania,
a little bit.
So
yeah, and able to build a little bit of confidence there. But I mean, for the most part, you don't want him as your main recruiter, I feel like. So.
No, nah.
Because I mean, and especially in this era, here's the thing: he might, we got this commitment, and what did we see happen with Ohio State? Or hey, this guy's crystal ball here, or we think we got him. What would happen? Flip on the defensive side of the ball. So.
He can get you like a Tommy Eichenberg or Eli Lee, that type. Hopefully Eli Lee comes here and balls, man, because. But that's the type of player Jim knows is like good at communicating with. You know what I mean? Like you think like your middle linebacker who's a thumper who, like that's the type of person he'll probably get that for you. But other than that,
they go from the Micah Parsons and Abdul Carters of the world to the Tommy Eichenbergs of the world. Penn State fans will be in uproar, bruh. Heck no, I don't believe that.
I'm just saying how people can recruit. As long as you got recruiters around them, it's fine. I'm sure they do. Penn State's got some good talent, man, on their defense.
I mean, we're going to see. We're definitely going to see, because I think that one thing that could possibly be exposed with the Jim Knowles defense is that run game, not just the pass game either. But other coaches that happen, Teton gets what's his name? Chip Lindsey, offensive coordinator. He says that they will be one of the most physical and explosive offenses in the country. I'm trying to understand where the explosion is coming from.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with them, Mike, is you can get yourself into a really bad situation trying to change the mentality of your team. And if they want to bring in a guy like that, and I've heard Michigan fans talk a lot about how they're going to throw the ball more, and they got Bryce Underwood and blah 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 blah. You're talking about changing the whole mentality of your offense and your team. You're no longer a team that's going to just grind out the run game for the entire game. And with that, the defenses are not going to be as wore out later in the game. Your run game's not going to hit later in the game like you want it to. Your quarterback's going to be put in 3rd and 8 and have to convert that. You know what I mean? So stuff like that can easily turn into a bad situation. So they better watch it. And I mean, listen, I guess I hope for it, because obviously I hope their offense is not good.
Yeah. And our final one, man, go ahead and get into our topic. Ohio State gets their new staff. And, DC, Matt Patricia, offensive coordinator, is Brian Hartline again, and then they add offensive line coach Tyler Bowen. And I mean, I guess right now, it's Wednesday night. We haven't heard anything, which I felt like we were supposed to either hear Friday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday. It's Wednesday night. We haven't heard anything. I believe Larry Johnson is still on the staff, so I think that
dude. Larry Johnson's unit just led Ohio State to a national championship, bro. He's not going nowhere,
bro. You're in the same group chat that I'm in. You're in the same fan base that I'm in, Terry.
They're just in there wishful thinking, man. I guess if you call it wishful, like, I don't know, man. Larry Johnson's unit was balling, bro, and it seemed like I hate to say this, bro, because I don't know, and I'm never gonna know, but in my heart of hearts, I believe that Jim Knowles was holding Larry Johnson's unit back, and I think that JTT and Jack Sawyer are both superstars, and I think that they should have been superstars earlier in their career. But everybody said all they ever do is bull rush. All they ever do is bull rush.
How many times did I try to explain this to people? Like, for how many years? 2 years, Terry. Nobody wanted to listen to me. Ain't nobody believe me when I tried to tell y'all that Ryan Day had CJ Stroud on a leash and would not let that boy run. Y'all didn't believe me. Everybody was against me. Okay, y'all don't keep fucking around and finding out.
I didn't believe that one, but hey,
I turned out to be right. He said it in 4K.
Ryan Day had CJ on a leash with every aspect. He couldn't talk to the media. He couldn't. CJ go into the NFL and became himself. I'm like, who is this dude, bro? I don't even know who this is.
Facts, man. Facts. So, there's been the fan base kind of was in a little civil war about the Matt Patricia hire, defensive coordinator. Our guy Jay Bucks asked a question earlier, said, interested to see if we run a little bit more 3-4 more now with personnel we have and Patricia hired. And here's the thing, man. Like Terry was saying earlier, Ohio State has always recruited to go to 4-down linemen, right?
Yeah.
That is our bread and butter. Now, Matt Patricia, we know he likes to game plan game to game. So, is it possible that there could be packages where we see a 3-4 and things like that? I think instead of you dropping, JTT and Jack Sawyer types, or like a King out of Jackson back in space, yeah, you might see a different type, dropping back in space or something like that. I don't think that your pass rushers, your guys who you basically signed to be pass rushers, are going to be dropping in space in Matt Patricia's defense. I think also what you'll do is you might see a little bit more zone coverage. I think that what Matt Patricia allows us to do is be multiple week to week, game to game. And one thing that we have seen is defensive coordinators, for the people who don't like this hire, NFL defensive, I'm not even going to just say coordinators, personnel, because I don't remember Hafley being a coordinator in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
So what have we seen them do every time that they have came to the college ranks? They defense cooks. I'm not talking about them being as a head coach. I'm talking about them being a coordinator. And one thing that we've seen Kirby Smart have issues with is, that NFL style offense, right? One thing that we have saw other people have issues with, I mean, we can even say Ryan Day, the whole Wink Martindale, against the team up north, and I mean, everybody was saying that he was trash. And then everybody was talking about, the same things that we heard about Chip Kelly and players, we're hearing about Matt Patricia. And hey, guess what? You used to hear all the stories about Steve Sarkisian before he went to Nick Saban's rehab. You used to hear all the stories about Lane Kiffin before he went to Nick Saban's rehab. Why can't Ryan Day do that?
Hey, Ryan Day took over the rehab program for college football, man. I never would have expected it. He won a natty, threw that headset up in the air, and was like, all right, come on, man. Hey, but I love the hire, bro. I love the Matt Patricia hire. I swear that, and I said it from the beginning. I just wanted an NFL guy, and I'm like, what I don't want to do, don't promote from within or bring in some college coach and try to run Jim Knowles' defense. That is not what I want you to do, because we've seen that before. You can't run it without him here. Jim Knowles is a mad scientist. He's a great defensive coordinator, but he has all the answers to everything in his defense. These coaches that are still here don't have every answer for every possible thing. So bring me in an NFL defensive coordinator that can look at this defense and be like, well, look, this is how we can make it better. This is what we can do to make it better. And I think Matt Patricia is perfect for that, bro. People talked about like Matt Patricia being under Bill Belichick. And it's like, okay, so Matt Patricia was good enough to be Bill Belichick's defensive coordinator, but he's not good enough to be Ryan Day's defensive coordinator. Like, have you seen the defenses that Ryan Day's team has had outside of the last 2 years? They've been like pretty bad for the most part, except for 2019. We had Jeff Hafley the 1 year, which that was another like magical marriage of scheme and just insane amount of talent on that defense, right? And I think we're going to have some young guys next year playing on our defense, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. Like, you're going to have them guys were not playing every single game last year, so they're chomping at the bit to get out there and show what they can do. And I think Matt Patricia is going to be perfect for identifying what players are good at and putting them in those positions, and also identifying what players are not good at and making sure that they don't get put in the position to have to do those things over and over and over again. Like we did see occasionally with Jim Knowles' defense. That did happen sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm ecstatic with the hire. I think that it's a great hire. I like what Jim Knowles is doing, and like someone said in the chat, man, Steve said from the X app, he said Day is playing chess, not checkers. And you spoke on it, but you didn't tell people. You know, we've seen someone get promoted or brought in to run a style of defense. That was Kerry Coombs to run a single high. And Jeff Hafley, he was at Boston College, and they're asking him, hey, what's going on with Ohio State's defense? You're asking a guy to run a defense that he never ran before at a high level. Like, it makes no sense. Like, it makes no sense. And I understand you can say, oh, it's different because what's his name has been here before. You know, I mean, Matt G has been in his defense and all of this before. But I'll tell you this. You can't show me a track record of Matt G's defenses getting better over time the way Jim Knowles' defenses were. That's the difference, right? And we're talking about NFL guys. I don't know about Matt G having that NFL experience and pedigree and seeing everything, because it's different. Because basically in the NFL, here's the thing. They basically seen just about everything, right? It's just about, are you able to play chess or checkers? Who's playing, which coordinator's playing chess and which coordinator's playing checkers? That's what it's about.
Yep. I
think that we give ourselves the edge, man. So, you know, the topic is, can Ohio State repeat and win the national championship, man? Just give me your broad answer before we get into the whys and why not.
Yeah, the broad answer is definitely yes. I mean, obviously an Ohio State fan, so I'm probably going to say that, you know what I mean? But looking at this team, bro, like I believe it. Like I believe that it definitely can happen. And I mean, without going too much into nuance, one thing that people need to remember, especially Ohio State fans, is that the playoff for the national championship is played at the end of the season. It's not played in game one versus Texas. Like, do I think that they could have some glaring issues in that first game? They definitely might. They could also go out and beat Texas's ass. We'll see. Because we got Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs on our team. Like, as long as we have them two, I feel like there's not a game in college football that we can't win. But yeah, I mean, the playoffs is played at the end of the year, so this team has a lot of time to develop throughout the 2025 season to then get to the point in the 2025 playoffs where they could go out there and make a run and win it for sure.
Agreed, man. That's how I feel. Honestly, you know, Terry, we have spoke off off air and things like that about, hey, I thought our year was 2025 to win a national championship anyways. I didn't think that it was going to be 2024, but Ryan Day said, hey, watch out. Let me show you something. So the reason being is I just think that, even though you are missing some guys, I do feel like some of the guys that are replacing guys leaving have a higher ceiling than those guys leaving. And that's why I believe this team can go ahead and win a national championship.
Yep.
So let's get into the whys, the details of the whys. Let's start with, I want to say, Cody Simon. He was the heart and soul of the defense.
Ooh,
we could definitely say, right? This guy has went from, playing under Al Washington, to playing behind Steel Chambers. And then once Laurinaitis gets there, he realized, like, I should have been playing this guy more than Steel Chambers. And we saw why Cody Simon was actually that guy and is better. But I'll tell you this, I think that Arvell Reese has a higher ceiling than Cody Simon. And if he can understand the playbook and grasp the playbook just as well, here's the thing. I don't think that he has to be, have to have the experience of Cody Simon. I just think that he just has to show his talent and go out there and know what he's doing. If he goes out there and knows what he's doing when he's playing, I think it could be very scary upgrade at the linebacker position. Also, you're talking about a second year Sonny Styles learning his position. If he could get those linebacker, intangibles and able to trigger like a linebacker, this could be a better linebacker tandem this year than it was last year. Let's talk about the linebackers. What you think, Terry?
Yeah, honestly, Mike, this is one of the positions that excites me the most about next year. Like, dude, there was times not early in the season this year that people said Arvell Reese was the best linebacker on our team. You know what I mean? Like, and he kind of stopped playing. I don't know what that was all about. I don't know. I never heard he was injured. I never seen him have like a terrible game or nothing like that where he should have stopped playing. So, but he did kind of like his reps kind of got reduced drastically at some point in the year. But the one thing that I noticed with Arvell, man, is just like teams are not going to be able to run the ball. Like if you have a running back on your team that falls forward, your running back's not falling forward when Arvell hits him. Your running back's falling backwards. They're falling straight to the ground. And even if you think back to the Michigan game, the only success they really had against us was Khalil Mullings running the ball. But when Arvell Reese was out there and he hit Khalil Mullings, he was not getting extra yards. And that's just what Arvell is. He's a big, super physical, freak athlete. And he looks like an NFL linebacker already. You know what I mean? So, it's the year of the Twitch monsters, Mike. That's what you always keep saying, man.
Exactly.
And listen, on Sonny Styles, right? You talked a little bit. Like, it's not just can Sonny Styles be better in the second year. He's going to be better in his second year. Like, early in the season, Sonny Styles was kind of lost at linebacker. He got better as the year went on. But there was still, like, if you look into the playoffs, there was a couple plays where you would see him kind of make a mistake. And he's going to fix that. Like, I know he is. He's gotten better ever since he's been here. And he honestly played really well throughout the playoffs. I mean, I don't, like Sonny Styles, as he was this year, makes our linebacker unit really good anyways. And I think he's going to be even better. And I think you potentially may have like the best linebacker unit in college football. I mean, that's kind of like the ceiling for these guys.
That was another thing like that I think I remember talking to you about with Nose is like when our guys drop back in zone, it's like they don't know what they're doing, right?
Yep.
And that's where I feel like Sonny Styles sometimes got lost was he didn't know what he was doing in zone. Hey, do I stay matched with this man or do I not? And I think that that's an area where, if he improves, or like you say, he will improve.
He's going to.
Yeah,
definitely going
I think that's going to be area. And like I said, if he knows the game like he is supposed to and triggers, and triggers faster like an actual linebacker instead of triggering like a safety, watch out. Because I'm telling you, like, it's different when a linebacker actually knows what he's doing. And maybe they held Arvell back because, like you said, it was getting loud that hey, Arvell might be the best linebacker. And as you said, our linebackers was getting better as the year went on. And if Arvell just kept getting better, hey, we might not seen some guys.
And honestly, like, he's just good at like every aspect. Like, the only thing I could see maybe being a weakness is we didn't really see him too much against teams that can pass. So maybe there's something there, maybe. But like, I mean, are you going to tell me that Cody was the lead at that? Because I mean, he wasn't. You know what I mean? Like, Cody was really good at what he did, and he was a leader. And I got nothing against Cody. Cody was a phenomenal player, national champion. But I mean, I just don't see I don't see an area other than maybe leadership, and that's because I don't know Arvell. But I don't really see an area where Arvell could not exceed Cody in terms of his ceiling.
Agree, man. And another position that I want to talk about is Lathan Ransom. Mr. Make You Pay the Ransom, man. Our guy, Lathan Ransom. Right back, gotcha. Our guy, Lathan Ransom, was coming out smacking folks. Especially throughout the playoff run. All he did, Tennessee, he hit somebody, they don't come back in the game. Oregon game, hit somebody, they don't come back in the game. Texas fans was like, hey, why we didn't use Arch Manning when we got down there in the red zone or whatever on the Scoop and Sawyer or whatever? Why we didn't use Arch? He got a concussion when he ran for the little fourth down. Yeah, he was. Did you not see him stumble? So, shout out to Lathan Ransom, everything that he brought, man. We definitely appreciate Lathan Ransom and everything that he did. But I'll tell you this: you get a guy out there like Jalen McClain or Malik Hartford, I think that we get better because I think the one thing that Lathan Ransom was weak at was coverage. But I don't think a guy like McClain is going to be weak in coverage. I think that the guy is pretty sticky. I also believe. Also, I don't think that we're going to maybe these guys. I think Hartford, he still is going to probably bring the boom. But even if the guys don't hit like Ransom, right? They still come down and they willing to make those type of tackles. And
hey, so, Mike, listen, I went to practice, bro. Listen, I know Lathan was smacking people, and I can't listen. We got to see it more in games, but Malik Hartford and Jalen McClain are both hitters now. Dude, I watched Jalen McClain with my own eyes, Mike. I watched him get kicked out of practice for hitting a receiver too hard. Not out of practice completely, but he got put on the sideline and got scolded, and I think he had to run because it was Kojo. He hit Kojo so hard he hurt him. And
not Kojo gone.
Oh yeah, not Kojo. That was at Colorado State or something like that. But I'm telling you that Malik Hartford's been a hitter. He was a hitter since he came here, and he looks like he got bigger. So he might be the one that kind of fills into that Lathan Ransom type of role because he's bigger than Jalen McClain.
Yeah, man. I think that in coverage wise, I think that we're gonna have guys back there who are a bit cerebral. And then also you're talking about Denzel Burke, right? The Buckeyes go ahead, they lose Denzel Burke, and you replace him with Jermaine Matthews, who a lot of us believe is going to be an upgrade, right? We've seen how key Jermaine Matthews was in coverage multiple times. Is there some areas that he can get better in? Yes, but I think a third year Jermaine Matthews, knowing that he's the guy, going out there, getting those reps, and also just going up against the best wide receivers in the nation is going to be amazing. You get a fourth year Igbinosun, right? Igbinosun comes back for his fourth year because he was a junior. And regardless, Iggy's going to be physical. And if Iggy gets better, I heard stories about how Matt Patricia was actually on one of those Patriots defenses where they actually had to take guys' hands or whatever because they were too handsy, right? So this is something that Matt Patricia is going to be like, hey, okay, my guy's a little handsy. This is something that I can work on. He's going to bring different things that he's learned from the NFL or whatever. You know, maybe he didn't work with Tim Walton. Maybe there's something that's the good thing about getting these different guys is you can always learn something, right? You should always be learning. So,
you know, Mike, there was a NFL player, man, and I'm sorry, guys, I don't have the name, I forget, but it was a podcast that I listened to like a clip of, and they were talking about Matt Patricia going to Ohio State, and this was a former NFL player who was on the Patriots when they made Matt Patricia the offensive coordinator for that little stint
Harris,
when
the Alabama running back.
Yeah, it might have been him. But one thing he said was he was like, what Matt Patricia is definitely going to do is he's going to make sure that your defensive backs are using like perfect technique. So even that, like we have Tim Walton, we have Matt Guerrieri. You add Matt Patricia in, who also has the ability to fix someone like Davison Igbinosun, because Iggy is like a first round talent. He just needs to get all his technique right, quit grabbing so much, all that good stuff. Just I don't know, man. Just another reason why I'm super excited about Matt Patricia. If you guys didn't listen to that podcast, check it out, though. It's just, I don't even know if they talked about him for a long time. I just seen the clip, but it may be worth listening to.
All right. And also, here's the thing. You know, let's go ahead in the D-line before we actually get in like the depth and stuff, right? D-line, you're replacing everybody. Jack Sawyer, JTT, you're replacing Tyleik Williams and Ty Hamilton. But here's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. How many teams or how many people can say, hey, I had key guys on my national championship team that were juniors and they were backups. And we're not just talking about just anybody's. We're talking about high 4-star, 5-star caliber guys. And I also believe, like I said, it's the year of the Twitch monsters. And I believe you get a more twitchy guy in Caden Curry at the pass rushing position. And then I definitely think that you get a more twitchy guy in Kenyatta Jackson. Like I think I've said before, I just need him to make sure that he just stays in the right gap and trust his teammates. And I think that I think that he could be better than Jack Sawyer and JTT. So
yeah, Kenyatta played a lot down the stretch, man. He played exactly well. Like you talk about staying in gaps and stuff. Like I think he kind of answers that question for me too late in the year. Like he was playing big time moments that he was staying in his gap. He was making run stops. He was really causing problems, bro. Kenyatta looked really good, and he should have had a big time play in the Tennessee game, but they took it away with that weak penalty.
Yeah,
but,
they felt bad.
Honestly, Mike, with the D line, bro, I think I'm more worried about the defensive end position than I do the interior. I think the depth in the interior is like it is thin, but I also think that you have two superstars with Caden McDonald and Edric Houston. I think with Edric Houston, you have a guy who could be like first round pick type in the future. You know what I mean? Like that's how good I think that he's going to be on the interior. And I've been saying it kind of since I first seen him get in the game. I'm like, man, you look at this guy. He looks already like he's stronger than everybody else. And he's twitched up. So I'm super excited about that. But like I do worry about the edge just because we're going from having Jack Sawyer and JTT, who are both big, kind of like strong side defensive ends. And I know that other teams don't have two of those all the time. So maybe I just need to see it to see how it looks. And maybe this is kind of just some fatigue or like, you know, I'm just so used to having Jack Sawyer and JTT as my defensive ends. I know they're going to kind of do what they're supposed to do. Maybe that's where the worry comes from. But I do worry about the depth there. Unless you start seeing a guy maybe like CJ Hicks. I'm not going to hop on that train again this year, but you know, that's a guy who I would love to see get involved, especially in some pass rushing situations, because I still to this day believe that kid has something in him, and I hope that we can get it out of him before he leaves here.
Right. I agree. But yeah, definitely defensive end. I know you say that you feel like we're a little thin, but I see guys who have not hit the portal from the defensive tackle position, man. And you know, a lot of guys have been looking for people like Jason Moore to finally, you know, when is the light going to click on for him? But here's the thing. He kind of has been buried behind the depth chart, right? You're talking about being behind guys previously like Mike Hall. Then this year, you're behind Tyleik Williams. You're behind Ty Hamilton. You're also behind K-Mac. And, I mean, it's just Edric Houston's just a twitched-up dude, bro. Like, it just is what it is, right? So, I mean, I think that right now you have guys who know. I mean, I was watching this interview with Bryson Rodgers, and he just seemed like he had a different fire about him because he's like, man, I think I got a chance to actually, you know, make my way on the field. And we always hear about guys or whatever, like when they actually see that path to the field or they know like, hey, that time is coming or is near, how, you know, the light switch clicks on. I think guys like Jason Moore have no choice for the light switch to click on. You're talking about Tyron Malone. This will probably be his, because this was his actual, he just completed maybe his second year of actually training just football, right?
Yeah.
So now he's going into his third year. I think you can also see him in that rotation as well. You know, third year under Larry Johnson. And I know some people aren't too high on him, but if he can make a BB Landers type of role or something like that, is that not good depth?
It is. No, 100% it is. And the thing with those guys, man, is when you look at like the reps they had throughout the year, it's just kind of a mixed bag. And that's where that's where they need to shore up and make it more consistent. You know what I mean? From those interior guys, you want them to be consistent. So you have some reps where Tywone Malone, especially, I've seen him wreck some plays before in games. If you go back and look at his reps throughout the year, and then there's a couple plays where it's like, okay, you got knocked like 6 yards off the ball, bro. Like, it's like, you can't do that. Like, you're opening up a gap that nobody even has a chance to fill because you kind of got thrown out the play. So, and I think that they will, bro. I think that having Matt Patricia here, I think that will really help those guys. Because I think that he's going to ask them to do some things that they'll be that will be not necessarily easier for them, but like I think that he'll have the linebackers and the D line working really well together, so that guys are just out there and they can make plays and play aggressive and play confident. And I think that was kind of the problem sometimes with Jim Knowles' defense, dude. It's like I felt like these guys are not playing confident. You know what I mean? I think that'll show in those guys, the ones that were just kind of maybe second or third on the depth chart, didn't really get any playing time. But now it's now or never. Like, it's time. Do you want to play in the NFL? Do you want to continue your career? You got to get it done.
Burke said it was hard for them to be confident in the game plan going into the first Oregon game because you got like 30 different dang on plays that they wanted to formulate and then build off of that. Like, it's ridiculous. So, I mean, I think he's gonna keep it simple. But before we hit our time on the offensive side of the ball, man, you know, you lose Will Howard, you lose two great, phenomenal backs, you lose Emeka Egbuka, man. But right now, you're talking about the SFE takeover. You're expecting to have JJ, Carnell, and Brandon Ennis as your wide receivers. You're talking about all guys who have made plays in the playoffs and during the season. You know, some people are skeptical about Brandon Ennis, or I don't understand it, but Brandon Ennis is definitely, I think, he's captain material on this team. He's already on the leadership committee, and he just got that dog in him, man. I think consistently blocking on the perimeter, I think it's going to be better this year. Not saying that Emeka wasn't. I just feel like sometimes he wasn't consistent, but I just feel like this SFE mentality, that dog mentality that them guys have when they're out there playing together is going to be a different thing. And if Julian Sand is who everybody is saying he is, or if it's Lincoln Keno, the West Dakota Heisman, if he's able to go out there and show his athletic ability, because this is the thing, all you need Lincoln Keyholes to do is be a version of Will Howard, right? And to be honest, I think he's a more athletic, or could possibly be a more athletic version of Will Howard. Is his arm talent there? We don't know, but Ryan Day said it's supposed to be a battle, and that's one of the we'll see about that. But right now, it's kind of seeming like it's Julian Sands' job for the taking. But other than that, I think that you have upgraded. You're talking about you lose G. Scott, but you bring in Max Clare. Does Jelani hit the on switch and finally, take off? You get Ben and Christian, who came on at the end of the year. Will Kazmarek is coming back. This is a loaded tight end room as well. I don't think that Ohio State's tight end room has been this loaded ever, even under Urban Meyer. You can always say, hey, we got one. Maybe we got two, but you never say, hey, we got 3 or 4.
No, I agree with you, man. And I mean, I do think that you can see that jump from Jelani, but you also have, Max Clare, dude. What is JJ going to look like with a tight end like Max Clare? Like, that is crazy because you still have the wide receivers, the threat that they bring with Carnell Tate and BI, and we know those guys are a threat. And then you don't even know what you got with guys like Quincy Porter, guys like Bryson Rogers, guys like Mylan Graham. You don't even know what you got there. So I don't know, man. I'm excited about the offense. I want to talk to you more about the offense next time we hop on here, Mike. I got to hop off real quick. I know it's just only like a couple minutes before we was going to wrap up anyway, but I got to hop out. You can go ahead and finish wrapping up the show, bro. I appreciate you, Mike.
We appreciate you, Terry.
Yeah, man. I appreciate y'all in the chat, man. Thanks for coming. We'll be back next week, I assume. Yeah, we'll be back.
For sure.
All right. Later, y'all. Later, Mike.
All right, man. And we're going to keep going, y'all, because we still got to talk about this offense, right? You, like we said, you are replacing 2 phenomenal running backs in TreVeyon Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, but you're replacing them with James People, who people are comparing to J.K. Dobbins. Is he ready for that? You got a C.J. Donaldson coming in. Here's the thing. I think that even though you lost those 2, you can have a running back by committee type of room as well this year, right? Even if you don't need a bell cow, you just need some guys to be efficient. Here's going to be the key, because we know Ryan Day is not going to want you out there if you cannot pass block. You have hindered the complete offense if you cannot pass block. So that's going to be one thing I'm going to be out there looking for. But I think you get in the C.J. Donaldson, you go ahead and you say, hey, this could be my guy right here on the goal line in the short red zone, short down and distance. You can use him for that. You also have guys who are speedy guys, right? I think that Coach Locke's development, I trust in Coach Locke. He's going to have these guys ready, man. And one thing that you have seen Coach Locke teach these guys is being able to use their offhand. Hey, you got one, the ball in one hand, be able to use your other hand. And we saw massive stiff arms from TreVeyon Henderson and definitely Quinshon Judkins, especially during the playoff run, just of how effective it was. So, another year under, Coach Locke, I'm really excited to see with these guys, and also a full spring of Coach Locke, right? Because they really didn't even have a spring with Coach Locke last year. They really only have fall camp. So I'm very excited to see what these running backs are going to do. Could there possibly be some drop-off? Yes. But we don't know. It's to be determined, because I think with this offensive line, right, you lose Josh Fryer, you lose your Remington Award winner, and you lose Josh Simmons. But to be honest, here's how I've looked at our offensive line. That wasn't the national championship offensive line. Josh Simmons, Seth McLaughlin, Remington Award winner, that wasn't your national championship offensive line. I think with the new tackles that we got in, I think that this offensive line becomes more athletic. And now in the interior of the offensive line, you have guys who are very experienced. And your tackles are experienced as well, because they played games, just maybe not here at Ohio State, but we know what the development can do here at Ohio State with Drevno and what they were able to do with Donovan Jackson. So here's my thing. If we got actual tackles and we was able to have Donovan Jackson playing like he was a first-round left tackle out there, you know what I'm saying, putting up first-round left tackle stats out there, just imagine what's going to happen when we actually have a guy at left tackle, you know, who's an actual left tackle. Then you have a right tackle that, you know, if you've watched the film rooms, shout out our guys, Chris and Zach over at Minister Sports, when they was talking about it, the guy's already better than Fryer. So I'm really excited about this offensive line and what they can do. Now, I'll tell you this, reasons why Ohio State might not win a national championship. And I think that the number one reason would be because of coaching, right? Coaching could be an issue for Ohio State not winning a national championship. And the reason why I would say coaching is either the defense is not clicking on as a staff and isn't getting the guys ready like they should. That could possibly be a thing. Another issue for the reason why Ohio State possibly won't is they just don't have the depth like they did, right? We saw in that playoffs, you need your veterans. Not only do you need your veterans, but you have to have depth behind it. You know, everybody's talking about, the talent that Ohio State lost. No one's talking about, hey, Ohio State, the depth that they had, like a Kenyatta Jackson, his first year starting, he's going to be a senior. So is that what it takes to be a national championship team? We're definitely going to find out. Another thing, experience at QB, right? We saw what Will Howard was able to do at quarterback was amazing. You know, is Lincoln Kingholz or Julian Sain going to have that leadership? Are they going to be able to look guys in the huddle? Are they going to be able to change the plays up like Will Howard was able to do? Read defenses. One thing that I am worried about Ohio State is going to have a showcase, right? The last spring game when I saw Julian Sain, he looks like he was a bit nervous, you know, and that was only playing in front of maybe 60,000, 80,000. You're talking about opening up in the biggest game. Is he going to still have those type of nerves? That's one thing that I wanted to see. I wanted to see him go out in front of the shoe, in front of like 60 to 80,000 and say, hey, you know, I'm here mentally. Because all we hear is he watches film, he breaks down film, he can throw, and that this guy's supposed to be the next thing, you know, on saying. I'm hoping so. Here's the thing. I can't leave out Lincoln Kingholz, man. I think that I compare him. Can he be Will Howard 2.0, right? I think his athletic ability allows him to not fall to the turf monster like Will Howard. But our guy Terry, I think he would want me to bring this point up, right? If you can get 80% of throwing, like let's say if Lincoln Kingholz, I think Terry would say, if Lincoln Kingholz threw 80% of what Julian Sain did, right? But he also has what he has with his legs, ability, the athlete that he is. Would you take that as a Buckeye fan? Would you be cool with that? If he threw at least 80% of how Julian Sain is, but he also has that athletic ability with his legs. I think that could be dangerous. And one thing that you did see is teams, when you have the offense that Ohio State has, and then you're able to use your legs, it's put defenses in binds. And you've seen Ohio State use Will Howard to shut down and end games running the ball, man. So that's one thing that I am a little bit worried about. But also just want to talk about, my way too early, how our team's going to stack up in each conference. Big Ten, in this current 12 teams, you're talking basically what's your 3 top teams in each conference, right? That's what you're talking about. In the Big Ten, I believe you got Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State. In the SEC, I believe it will be Texas, Georgia, and Bama. Now, Georgia, I put there with a question mark, and the reason being is I don't know what they're going to have out of quarterback. I do have a surprise team in the SEC that we will end up talking about when we talk about, hey, what's our surprise team? So we'll get into that as well. But here's my thing. They still have Kirby Smart, and even though their offense wasn't able to be effective majority of the time during the season and what we saw in the playoffs, which lost them the game, they still was able to make it. They still did the damn thing. I mean, you can say what you want about Georgia, but they were still there. So until Kirby shows me that he's going to go 9-3 and be on the outskirts, I'm going to put him there. In the ACC, I basically only put like 2 teams, right? Because you're only going to get 2 teams from the ACC. Flat out. College Football Playoff Committee told us that they respect a Boise State Conference Championship over the ACC. So 2 teams that I'm looking at in the ACC is Clemson and Miami. Carson Beck, if he is able to come back from that injury like, he's supposed to, just being in the ACC, not good defenses, things like that, he'll be able to put up stats. They have a good offensive line. They got, Miami got good skill talent. I'll give them that. So I definitely expect, Miami, Clemson, those will be the top 2 teams coming out of the ACC. And then Big 12, I honestly don't know who to pick. You got between Utah, BYU, and Iowa State. I haven't heard that Cam Rising is coming back. Last I saw or looked up any reports was that he was not on the roster, on the 2025 roster. And one thing that I can say is the big dogs have left the Big 12 in Oklahoma. And who else is that? Oklahoma and Texas, right? But one person who's I think is going to be consistent, always fighting and always there fighting is Iowa State. You have to look out for them, and then probably your defending champs, Arizona State. So I don't know which one of those teams. It's a crapshoot, right? I think Notre Dame is definitely going to be in the college football playoff. So, I mean, obviously we'll just put them there. And then the G5, I have no idea. Some people believe, hey, might as well pencil Boise back there. But my way too early, I'm not sure. We'll have to wait till after spring because that's the thing. That spring portal is still there. And I think that's when you're going to see the G5 guys start to, figure out, hey, can I get to a P4 program? So we'll figure the G5 out later. I appreciate you guys, rocking with us. We are back. We will be here every Wednesday at 7:30 Eastern time. Make sure that you hit the like and subscribe button. And if you want to follow me, you can follow me on the X app at 216_wildboy. You can also follow Terry at CFB_stop on the X app as well. Again, we appreciate you all, man. Make sure you tell somebody, get some people in here. We appreciate everybody. Doug, Posh, our guy Steve, J-Buck, Cool Kid. We appreciate everybody. Jim, always in there. Our guy C-Ball, always there. We appreciate you, Rob. Everybody in the chat. If I missed you, Dez, if I missed you, I'm sorry, but we definitely appreciate you. Y'all have a good one, man, and we are out of here. Welcome to the Fans Edge Sports Show. Hang the regular season banner, guys. You're not the same, bruh. It's not.
I do not want the refs to be a part of my football game. This Ohio State team is different.